Hello, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to the Arrowhead Kingdom Chiefs cast live from the Wolf Den. I'm Chris.
And I'm Josh, and today we're going to be talking about everything that's happened since the last time we talked. And a big reminder that all Chiefs fans are invited to join us for game day. Please visit arrowheadkingdom.org to learn more about the group and to find your local chapter. And please make sure, as always, to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.
Today, on one of the many topics of the Kansas City Chiefs, newsflash, everybody. The Chiefs re-signed Austin Ryder.
Yeah, there you go. We're, of course, presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider. Photo, video, DJ, photo booth, lighting, and coordination services. Visit them at completewedo.com. Obviously, there's some news. And just full disclosure, recording this on 3/23/22. So there's plenty of things that happened today and that have happened recently. But I think we have to take a step back here first. And let's remind everybody that it's been a while since we have been here. We last recapped the divisional playoff game, which was that Bills win. And we've effectively put this whole thing on ice for a variety of reasons since that moment. And I think part of that was we just didn't really feel like talking about the AFC Championship game. And I think part of it was I know I wasn't too terribly into the Super Bowl. And I think also we're just kind of busy, and a break ended up working out. But it's great to be back on with you guys. And so without further ado, let's just actually talk about what that AFC Championship game was. So I'll throw this out here real quick. I drove from Milwaukee down to Kansas City to watch that game live. And, Chris, we'll just jump in with you. I mean, give us your thoughts on what that game was, what it could have been, so forth.
The Chiefs blew the game. I mean, that's really, to be blunt, that's how I felt at the end of it. I wasn't bitter, but they had that game in hand, and it just didn't make any sense of what was happening in the second half from many accounts. But I mean, in some ways it was kind of like the regular season game, but I think they even had a stronger hold in the AFC Championship than they did in the regular season game. And regardless of what happened to you in the first half, it still doesn't explain the second half. I mean, if you're trying to tell me that somehow snowballed into mass confusion for the offense, I mean, I would like to think they have a tougher mentality and thicker skin than that. But the better team didn't win that day. That sounds ungracious, but that's really how I feel.
Yeah, here's the only thing that I'll say. Sitting in the stands, we ended up in a section that had a ton of Bengal fans, and I'll tell you, they felt that the better team didn't win that day. And it wasn't until that Patrick Mahomes interception and they moved the ball twice before you started hearing chatter, is this actually going to happen? Are we going to actually do this? And then they lined up for the kick, and I think it was still disbelief, just there. And so, the other thing I just kind of think of is, yes, the Chiefs gave the game away, but we probably should actually tip the cap to the Bengals for taking advantage of that and closing the deal. So,
yeah, I rooted for them in the Super Bowl. I mean, I wasn't bitter. Even was on record saying before the AFC Championship, if the Bengals win, I'm going to root for them in the Super Bowl. So. I think it's cool for the city of Cincinnati. Maybe they have something built that's going to be sustainable, but still, it's the second time now in 4 years we wonder what it would have been like if the Chiefs have played the Rams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, crappy. Brian, what were your thoughts?
Oh, I like that call going into halftime, where it was like, instead of I liked how it was like we could have kicked it, but then they went for the touchdown. I'm like, ooh, I like that. Then fast forward, like, was there a miscommunication? We get like the reports about miscommunication. Should they not? Who had the final decision and all that? I'm like, this was kind of like a thrown together kind of thing. At least those are the rumors. I don't know if they've been like verified or anything like that. But yeah, I enjoyed we were just so in control in the first half. It's kind of the same story with the Bengals game the first time as well. It's like we're just in control, and then they came back the second half, and I don't think we scored a touch. Did we score a touchdown on regular time? I don't think we did we? Or it was just we didn't do anything. And Yeah, it was unlike the final 5 minutes or like the overtime Chiefs, and it was unrecognizable to what we were used to and what we've become accustomed to. And yeah, and I think tip of the hat to the Bengals, because I mean we can do that, but you still got to make the play. You still got to throw the ball and get your scores in. And against our defense, who was pretty hungry. So, but yeah, it was a rough one. And so I like to remember the Bills game more than I do that game.
Yeah, I mean, I loved going for the touchdown at the end of the play, and
me too.
I mean, there's the rub against Andy Reid is twofold, that he gets conservative and he quits running the ball, which is conservative. So it's kind of this whole double type of thing. But it's the whole, lacking killer instinct and lacking, the way I always describe it is, if you have a drowning entity, but let's call it a rat to make this not too terribly morbid, do you sit there and look at it while it's in the bucket and wait for it to drown, or do you step on its head and get it over with? And going for that touchdown is the step on its head and get it over with type of situation. And you can sit there and say that they would have had the game locked up at that point, and the Bengals wouldn't have been able to come back and do anything. But I just think about this. Let's say in an alternate world, we kick a field goal to go up 24-10, and the Bengals have a second half that looks like that Colts game, from back in 2013, early 14, that horrible game. And the Bengals come in and they just turn it on, and we ended up losing that game where we kick a field goal by 3 or 4 points. We'd be sitting here crucifying Andy Reid for not being more aggressive and going for the touchdown when you were on the 1 yard line. I mean, it's just a zero-sum game. If there's anything that I'm going to, blame everything on from a coaching and game management situation, we were running the ball at something like 5 or 6 yards a clip in the first half, and we basically didn't run in the second half. So you can attribute it to that. Chris Jones holds on to Joe Burrow once or twice in the second half, and that probably changes the game. I mean, it's just there were so many little things that happened, and the whole thing ended up being unfortunate loss. So
yeah, the big difference, you mentioned the 2013 divisional game against the Colts. I thought the defense did their part in the second half. I mean, I actually rewatched the second half because I was just, sitting there watching it in real time. It didn't feel real. And then when I rewatched it, I mean, the Bengals really didn't do that much. I mean, the interception definitely changed and made it look like, okay, this can happen. But again, we gave that game to them, and I think the defense did enough. And all it would have taken is one offensive scoring drive in that second half before that field goal at the end of regulation. And yeah, we're talking about, I mean, who knows what would happen in LA after that. But I really, again, I feel like this was more about the Chiefs losing than the Bengals winning.
Yep. I mean, we scored 3 points in the second half. The other thing that I'll look at here, I'm just pulling up the box score again. Not saying that I enjoy looking at this, but another thing that I'll throw out is when we're talking about plays in the second half, and this is going to segue into our next thing. I don't recall Tyreek Hill being anything of a factor, and now that we're talking about him and not scoring any drives, the biggest news today is Tyreek Hill leaving the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
So it's a fourth score. Oh, he's in fourth place of like all-time touchdowns, or I looked at the stats. All-time great. That was hard news for me to watch, listen to, and look at. And I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel about the what we got for like the first round draft pick and all the picks we got, and how are we feeling about that? Because like fourth round is at 29. We got to pick 29th, so hopefully we get something out of that.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at another, not comparing these two wide receivers, but the LA Rams just lost Robert Woods, and they got a 6th round pick out of him. Obviously Tyreek Hill's not the same thing, but getting a 1st round draft pick out of a wide receiver, I think, is impressive.
You ever see that movie Moneyball?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Only 1,000 times.
Is there a way we recreate Tyreek Hill in the aggregate. Like, I mean, I guess we really can't do that, but can you like somehow get like the legs of, Usain Bolt and like, the hands of like Jerry Rice or whatever, and complete it like that. Like, I guess it's more of a Frankenstein's monster kind of movie. It's not really. It's not really
you get
really
Randy
involved.
Moss if you do that, but yeah.
I mean, in reality, that's essentially what we're planning on doing. Is we are going to recreate him in the aggregate, and the whole thing, and why this trade sucks, and sucked to watch, is that Tyreek Hill is a horizontal threat. He's a vertical threat. He can catch short passes. He can catch long passes. He could go for a touchdown at any given time. So we're going to have to do what most teams have had to do, where you just get a speedster that runs down the side of the field to take the top off the defense. And in theory, that could be McCole Hardman. We need to get somebody who can chew up yards and short-term possession. That's what we brought in Juju Smith-Schuster for. Now, obviously, you're not replacing those two, but it's the whole situation of Moneyball, where somebody's probably looking at Brett Veach going, so you're telling me that you want to bring in 3 flawed players to replace Jeremy or Jason Giambi? And that's ultimately what we're going to have to do. And it's the way the rest of the league puts stuff together. And, you can maybe say that like Cooper Kupp is a guy that had comparable just versatility and skills and stuff like that Tyreek Hill has, or, Devontae Adams is the other guy that always comes up as possibly best receiver in the league and everything. But I mean, we're going to have to piece this together like other teams. And we got draft picks now, and apparently we're going to be using them on wide receiver, which we probably needed to do anyway.
I do like how the conversation this year, the conversation about our offensive line was non-existent, which means it did well. And there was not much of a discussion about that.
We need a right tackle. We need a right tackle. And so there's talk on the social media walls. I mean, I feel really linked to what social media about the Chiefs is saying, from a fan standpoint. And there's talk about trying to bring back Eric Fisher to play right tackle. I thought Lucas Niang was fine when he was healthy, but that's
and he was healthy. That's the key thing.
Exactly. But I mean, that's one spot that needs to be solidified. But what that also tells you is that there's 4 other places that are solid, and that we do have depth and everything. The defense is where all the major work is to be done. And so we've got to get some of these 12 draft picks right. And, Veach needs to get that right, obviously.
Why do you think Tyreek Hill chose the Dolphins? Is highest pay, or because it's Florida and you can have fun?
There were 2 teams that were bidding on him. I mean, that this has obviously been brewing for a long time, or it wouldn't materialize the way that it was. But I mean, today it was about a 2-hour period of time from, hey, extension talks have stalled, to Tyreek Hill is traded. And it was the Jets and the Dolphins that were the final 2. And supposedly Tyreek Hill was torn between the 2 of them. And really, those are 2 teams that are going to overpay.
And I heard he actually had the final say. I read a story somewhere, but I mean, it comes down to it. The Jets were only offering, I think it was like 2 seconds and a third or something like that. I mean,
yeah,
we got 5 draft picks from Miami. So in my opinion, that's a better deal, but
sure.
But yeah, I still think Tyreek had a pretty strong say though, as far as, what, you tell us where you'd rather go and we'll make that deal.
Exactly. I mean, here are my thoughts on Tyreek Hill. What he did, in my opinion, today was he just became a job hopper. And I cannot throw shade at somebody like that, because my professional career, if you look at my resume, it is long because I am a job hopper. And I've left a ton of jobs, and I've definitely gone from situations where there's a higher chance of winning going to a lower chance of winning in a meaningful way. But I did that because it was a different commute that I wanted. It was this, that, or the other, but every single time it was, I'm getting paid more to do this. So it'd be pretty hypocritical for me to get upset at Tyreek Hill for deciding that he wanted to get paid more for what he does. And I mean, that's what his agents paid to negotiate. And that's really all this was today. And so I kind of applaud the the Chiefs and Tyreek for just not making a big thing out of this. It's like, look, if you want to get paid more, we've given you what our HR department and our salary research tells us the position you play is worth. If somebody wants to pay you more, then, you know, by all means, that's a good offer, and I'd certainly take it. And you know, it's not trying to hang this no compete clause over his head or anything like that. It's just kind of wishing him the best, and that's how that seemed to go. And I mean, the analogy, I was telling a friend about this earlier today. You have decisions in life, and so think of any major city metro area, and you're going to have your downtown area, you're going to have your nice suburbs, you're going to have your really, really nice suburbs, and you got to decide, you know, where you're going to live and how that fits into your budget. So to me, Tyreek Hill had the ability to go into the most posh and opulent zip code within the city and have a total mansion, but it means that he's going to be eating ramen, you know, for the foreseeable future, because he spent all of his money on this house and everything like that. Or he could go to the next best suburb and have the biggest house on his block and eat steak every day. And he decided he'd rather have the big house. And in this situation, the big house is the salary, and the meal that you're eating is who's going to be feeding you stuff from a quarterback standpoint. And Tua is ramen, and Patrick Mahomes is steak every single night. And that's what this
definitely
is.
has
so,
a noodle for an arm. Yeah,
exactly. And so, I mean, he made a decision that he'd rather have the most opulent house and the Ferrari in the front yard, and he's going to be eating peanut butter and ramen to make it work. And that's fine. I mean, that's a decision that is a perfectly acceptable decision, you know, in my mind.
My mind went right to Shula's Steakhouse whenever you said he's eating steak. Because wasn't Don Shula the Miami Dolphins coach?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
exactly.
So I can just eat there, I guess. But yeah,
exactly.
What happened to Tua too? Like he was like I don't know, just hasn't like really adapted yet. But now he's got some weapons to work with there. Then Tyreek Hill.
I mean, he was one of the two quarterbacks that was good. The other one being Jalen Hurts or whatever.
Joe Burrow.
That?
Well,
was Joe Burrow in that class?
No, I mean, on Alabama, Jalen Hurts was the guy that he supplanted.
He did,
Oklahoma
the
to
national
Alabama,
championship
right?
game, yeah.
But at Alabama, you know, he's sitting there. He was on the best team in college football, you know, and I mean, Alabama is as much of a vulgar display of power in any sports that you can possibly get. You know, I mean, they go out and take every single player that's available in college football and just carpet bomb games, and that's what was happening in those games. And you know, you had this comedy of riches where the two, you know, guys that were fighting were, you know, both insanely good college quarterbacks.
Well, after this Tyreek Hill, I guess what I kept on, I think the first thought that popped in my mind was like, oh gosh, bummer. The second thought was, well, we still have Mahomes. That's what I kept on telling myself. So we got Mahomes, and maybe that's the thing. We'll see whoever steps up does their thing, and if we, and you know, as long as we have someone who can make the throws, the deep throws, and the accurate throws, then he'll get the best out of everybody who's in that spot.
So tomorrow this is going to come out, but I'm guessing that this is going to come out before this actual video does. So I'm just going to kind of talk about it. You guys know that I write for Arrowhead One, and so my article that I wrote last night before this whole thing happened is all about, because this whole season has just been crazy free agent spending and everything. And so I did a little bit of a research project, because I've always believed that, you know, spending big in free agency doesn't necessarily equal getting to where you want to go. And let's be honest, getting to where you want to go is playing in and winning a Super Bowl. The 2015 version of any of us would probably have done this exercise looking at getting home field for a first playoff game and winning divisions and stuff like that. But at this point, it's a Super Bowl or not. And so I went to sporttrack.com, because they have a good tool that shows how much teams spend during the free agency period in the entire offseason leading up to a season. And it had data from where everybody's at this year from a spending standpoint, but all the way back to 2012. So that's 10 Super Bowl winners. And so I looked at who the top 5 free agent spending teams were that one free agency every single year. And take a wild guess. Brian, who do you think the 5 teams that have won free agency the past 10 years the most are?
I have no idea, Josh. I have no idea how to even think about.
Chris, you take a stab at this because I think you're going to get
Yeah.
at least half of these.
Well, I think the Rams come to mind first and foremost. The Cowboys. I mean, Jerry Jones is always throwing around dollars. And then after that, Denver.
Okay, so in the last 10
Yeah.
years, and this is just looking at free agent spending, not full team spending where you're extending your own players and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Just looking at free agent spending. Sorry, I got a cat on my lap right now. Just looking at free agent spending, the Cowboys have been in the top 5 in free agent spending exactly 0 times in the past 10 years.
Okay.
And 11 if you're including this one. They've been there 0 times. The Broncos have been there twice. And
you know what? The Saints. Where are the Saints at?
the Saints have been there twice as well. So
Okay.
here are the teams. There's 5 teams that have been in the top 5 in free agency spending at least 4 times out of the past 5 years. So there's one that's been there 6 times, and it's the Jags. There's 4 that have been there 4 times. It's the Dolphins, the Jets, the Raiders, and the Titans. Which of those 5 teams do you actually look up to and admire?
I would say the Titans are the ones who got
There you
money.
go. There you go.
Results out of their stuff. So.
There you go. There you go. And so some of the other stuff that I looked at is over the course of the 10-year period of time where we've had 20 Super Bowl participants and 10 winners, the average spending of the teams that land in the top 5 is $157 million on free agents. Granted, these contracts aren't all guaranteed and stuff like that, but it's $157 million. The average for the 2 teams that have played in the Super Bowl is $58 million. The instances where a team that's played in the Super Bowl has spent $100 million or more are 3. In 2012, the Ravens spent $100 in the offseason. And then in 2016, the Falcons spent 120, and this last season, the Bengals spent 130. But the Rams last year, for example, spent just under $8 million on free agent signings.
Wow.
So that data is either a complete train wreck, and I went to a not reputable site, but everything kind of spot checked out. So granted, there's extending players. The Rams have definitely traded and taken on salary and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I understand that I could be, more comprehensive and everything. But if you just look at the teams that go out and splash, signing free agents and just taking on dollars and stuff like that, the Jags, the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Raiders are the teams that have been doing that, and they've been for the most part building this entire century.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I guess it could be worse. Could be worse. You could have gone through 5 quarterbacks in 5 years.
Exactly. And that's it. I mean, in my, opinion before that, and this has solidified it, the teams that don't go out and just destroy their cap with these massive splashy win the offseason contracts are the ones that usually end up there towards the end of the season. And the one team that seems to have effectively spent, which this is the scary part, the Broncos were in that top 5 twice, and it was in 2013 or sorry in 2012 and 2014, so the year before their 2 Super Bowl appearances in the past 10 years.
Sure.
But let's be clear about what some of this stuff was. They brought in a pass rusher. It was DeMarcus Ware or whatever.
DeMarcus Ware. You had Emmanuel Sanders.
And then they brought in
Wes
Peyton
Welker.
Yeah. And they brought in Peyton Manning. Now, here's the thing about the current Broncos. I don't think Russell Wilson at this point is Peyton Manning. I really don't.
He's not.
Yeah, he's not. So, at this point, I think this sucks right now, but I think every year that goes by, some of this stuff that happened is going to suck less. And, these are the kind of difficult decisions that successful teams make. And so my biggest hope is that don't make the same mistake that I think the Packers have made the majority of this pay Aaron Rodgers big money time, which is fail to continue to keep getting him weapons. I mean, the Packers have never, had a first round draft pick wide receiver. That's just not what they do. And, I mean, we're getting panned right now for that Clyde pick. It's like a greed pick. It's getting cocky. It's blah, blah, blah. I mean, my thought on this remains, when your $500 million franchise quarterback says, "Hey, I'd love to have Clyde Edwards-Helaire," and the uncontested consensus best running back in that draft. That's the thing we have to remember. Anybody that says that, "Oh, I was calling Jonathan Taylor all the way back then," I think that's the vast majority of that is revisionist
and even
history.
Then, DeAndre Swift, I think, was being talked of more than Jonathan Taylor as
exactly.
well.
But still, I mean, Clyde was the guy. He was the guy. And so, maybe the Chiefs' diligence was incorrect and we picked the wrong guy, but who knows that either Swift or Taylor comes in and does anything more, and maybe Clyde goes off somewhere else, and it's just like, oh God, who knows?
Jonathan Taylor is a stud. He was on my fantasy team. He was on my fantasy team, and he just was a points machine.
He is. So I started opening my mind and started thinking about this possibility probably a couple months ago. My philosophy, I don't know if I made it clear on here, is I always think big picture. And to your point, Josh, I mean, I don't want to be the Packers. I think the Seahawks are another really good example, because once Russell Wilson signed his second contract, you saw the Legion of Boom die, and they were just constantly trying to patchwork a roster around Russell Wilson. Either he had no offensive line or he didn't have anybody to throw to. I mean, it seemed like it was something like that every year. And I don't know if they made the NFC Championship since they lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots.
No, they haven't.
But I mean, this to me, I mean, I'm probably one of the few, but I was elated when they made this trade and I found out, because this shows me Brett Veach is adaptable. He's, the one thing, the reputation that he built since he became the GM is that he was this aggressive GM who was going to, go out there and take what he wants and pay whatever it took. And I was worried that he would continue to do that, because I said this earlier this year after we lost to the Chargers. The window was shut, I think, on this core, and it's time to turn over the roster. Mm-hmm. And they maybe could have, they probably would have had a shot at the Super Bowl again this year. But around the corner, I really believe there was a financial crash coming, whether it's in 23 or 24, because you signed Tyreek Hill to that contract. You've got Tyreek Hill, Chris Jones, Joe Tooney, and Patrick Mahomes, I think probably over a combined $100 million of your cap going into 23. So, when I look at the roster going into this next year, and the big, thing has been rebuild the defensive line. Well, what have they done so far? They've restructured Frank Clark. They've re-signed Derek Nottie. They haven't done anything different there yet. And then you lose Charvarius Ward and Mike Hughes, and now you're drastically thinned out the cornerback position as well. I see this as one step back to take two steps forward. I think they are trying to build a roster that is void of a weak link, as opposed to trying to build a roster that is, let's say 33% above average players, and then every other guy is maybe average. But, I think I'm very encouraged by this. Is it going to work? I have no idea. But they've given themselves the opportunity by making this trade, getting all those draft picks. They now have $20 million more in cap space. There are still free agents out there that you can at least fill the roster out. Do I think they're going to replace Tyreek Hill? No, you're not going to replace Tyreek Hill. And the offense probably will take a step back this year, but I think trying to get the roster younger and more well-rounded, they have the opportunity for that. And I think that's a better plan if this team wants to win multiple Super Bowls, because again, if they go for it again next year and they don't make it, I can see this being maybe a 4 or 5 year downfall where they're constantly trying to scramble back financially. And just to make it clear, when you cut a guy, that doesn't just take the money off the cap. There's still dead money to pay after that. So if, it's like the Frank Clark restructure, we could have cut Frank Clark, but we still owed, I don't know, $8 or $9 million of dead money. You restructure him, he takes a pay cut, and it's essentially the same thing. You don't have to replace him. Essentially you're not having to sign 2 players to replace one. So there's a game out there financially that I find fascinating, and I'm really glad to see Brett Veach is playing.
Yeah, I mean, 15 million for Frank Clark, talking about him. Have I been happy with really what he's done outside of the 2019 playoffs? Not really. But at the same time, I mean, a guy who stays healthy and plays defensive end, I mean, 15 million bucks for a warm body is kind of the going rate.
Well, that's what they need right now, are warm bodies. I mean,
he's more than a warm body. He's more than a warm body. He's not an elite pass rusher. $15 million is an elite pass rusher money. I mean, you're looking at 20. I mean, if we wanted to bring in
it either way.
Clown,
you cut him, you're still paying it. So
exactly.
I mean, you might as well have him
on your roster. You might as well have him on your roster. I mean, I don't care how good you are at drafting, you're not going to bring in 3 guys that are going to supplant him and make him, expendable to that level. So yeah. No, I mean, I can't tell you that I'm elated by this trade by any means.
Again, I'm sure I'm one of the very few, but yeah.
The longer I think about it, I mean, the more that I'm just, this looks like a plan. This looks like somebody who has the intestinal fortitude to say, I really don't care what you say about me. I know this is the right move. And I mean, I understand anybody who's upset. I really do. I understand anybody who's upset. I think they're completely entitled to that opinion. I understand anybody, and I think this is a perfectly acceptable opinion as well, to say that he, Brett Veach failed by letting this drag out too long and letting all these other receivers, i.e. Devontae Adams, set the market.
And who's to say that was Veach that was dragging this out either? I mean, there's two sides.
Exactly. I mean, I truly believe that, because, I mean, here's the thing. When you're talking about contract extensions, especially when you're talking about any of this, part of the negotiating thing is, and same goes for Tyron Matthew. Well, they never offered me a contract. Well, okay, they never typed up the 100-page document and put it on a table in front of you. But you guys have been talking about this garbage since the beginning of last year. And you're sitting there and your agent's sitting there going like, oh, I'm top safety in the NFL, so he needs to get paid like a top safety in the NFL.
And he's still a free agent. Yeah.
And we got to have a 3-year contract, and Kirk Cousins is fully guaranteed and stuff like that. And Brett Veach and Andy Reid and everybody is sitting there going, we're not typing anything up that says that. It's like, get out of here, come back to us when you want to do a 1-year contract, or come back when you want to do a 3-year contract where year 1 is guaranteed, and we'll talk again. You're getting old, And so, yes, was he formally offered a contract? Sure, maybe not, but and that's the same thing with Tyreek Hill. It's just, I mean, I run a company. You have people coming all the time, and it is just like, I'd like to make more money. Okay, what are you thinking about? Well, I'd like to, and so, I mean, I have contractors and stuff, and I had a guy tell me here recently, he's like, oh, I kind of like to double my pay, and if I only work about half as many events, I'm okay with that. I'm like, I freaking bet you are. I bet you are. Well, how does that help me at all? How does that help me at all? And that's the situation with Tyreek Hill and Veach. It's just, how does this help you at all? And
Tyreek Hill, well, Veach tried to resign him. There was a number that they were willing to resign him at, and it wasn't like 15 million, they're actually willing to probably, what I've heard, there's willing to probably go up to about 23 million.
See, and I've heard 22, 23, but he got 30 from the Dolphins. Like, get out of here,
Yeah. No,
if I
and the
could go back
Raiders are
in
going to be
time
paying. The Raiders are
Yeah.
going to be paying for that contract on Devontae Adams. I mean, see where they go with that. But,
Exactly. I mean, again, the teams that have spent the most in free agency and done this, it's the Raiders, the
two
Jags,
of them
and
under
the
display
Dolphins, and
here.
the Jets. The Ravens, the Dolphins, the Jags, and the Jets.
I gotta say, Josh, your impressions are on point. Like like your impressions of people there. Like, oh, so Travis Kelce walks in, like, oh, hey everybody, I'm Travis Kelce, and I want some more money now. All right, then Andy Reid walks in, like, yes, I want some of that money too. It's like it's like a higher register thing you got going on for your impressions of these massive professional athletes.
Well, while we're at it, I mean, keep in mind, you don't have Travis Kelce saying anything; he's just playing, And there was a period of time where I would have told you that I considered him to be a major flight risk, but at this point, I don't think he is. I think he's committed to staying in Kansas City, and this is. I mean, look at Deshaun Watson's contract. What, $230 million guaranteed from the Browns?
Well,
and Mahomes didn't sign a contract like that.
Here's something else to think about. I thought about this today. So, at the time Patrick Mahomes signed his $450 million contract, did you consider him to be the best quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah. I mean,
I
could
did.
argue him and Rodgers.
Yeah, but I did. When Travis Kelce signed his extension to become the highest paid tight end in the league, did you consider him to be the best at his position?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is Tyreek Hill the best wide receiver in the NFL?
It's either him or Devontae Adams. Now, keep in mind, this is Tyreek Hill getting the ball thrown at him by Patrick Mahomes, and Devontae Adams getting the ball thrown at him by Aaron Rodgers.
In that. Yeah, because we've seen Travis Kelce do it with Alex Smith. I mean, we know that.
Yeah.
There's a track record there, and I do firmly believe that Patrick Mahomes will make the players around him better.
Yep.
I'm not saying I want to run out a bunch of Byron Pringles and DeMarcus Robinsons, but I think if you give Hill that extension and he gets hurt, you're going to be thrown to a bunch of Byron Pringles and DeMarcus Robinsons.
Yep.
And that's what you're trying to avoid here.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if all of a sudden the wide receiver talent goes down a little bit and we have to run the ball more.
Well, that just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That just sounds terrible. We got to establish that run game.
All right. Well, I think we've beaten this one into the ground sufficiently enough. Brian, do you have anything else to add on this?
If the Dolphins, if you wanted the Dolphins, can you just beat the Patriots a few times, and that'd be okay with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, all the best to Tyreek and the Dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, cheers to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I'm
glad
I'm really happy.
I'm
glad that he got what he was looking for. I'm glad it wasn't from the Chiefs, but I mean, get paid, man.
Oh yeah,
I'm all for that.
Hall of Fame Chiefs player, best for. Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic career as a Chief. So how good?
Yeah, I mean, and this doesn't preclude him from having a trip back to Arrowhead to get his number retired.
Not at all. Yeah,
might happen. So
we'll get that back.
I would say that it might not happen at this point, but it probably will. So
yeah, that'd be crazy if it didn't.
I think it will.
I think it will.
At least he'll be in the Ring of Honor. But
exactly. Oh, yeah. All right. So only other thing that I think we really need to kind of talk about is we got a little March Madness going on. Got some Kansas Jayhawk action in the Sweet 16. So what are your guys' predictions for the game this Friday?
Oh, well, let me just say my bracket. I think this is the best bracket I've ever filled out in the history of me filling out brackets. It's like I'm really crushing it right now. I called every game in the South correctly. And I think I'm leading our Josh. You and I are on ESPN bracket. I think I'm like in second place there, just behind by one game. But
South is Arizona, right?
I'm sorry.
South is Arizona, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it's Arizona.
Wow. Good work.
I like how Michigan was like number 11 against Colorado State number 6, but like Michigan was still like the overall favorite in terms of points score. Like they're like a favor there in terms of betting. And but okay, so talk about KU. Yeah, I mean, we're going against Providence, so you couldn't ask for. I mean, I'm knocking on all the wood here because it's March and everyone's good and things happen. But in terms of what we have to look at the next few games, I would just say we are in a spot that I enjoy being in. We saw, watching that Kentucky game. How about that? That was insane.
That was incredible.
See, my brackets were set on fire because of Kentucky. So
yeah, well, mine
yeah,
too.
I had Kentucky and Tennessee in the Final Four, but that's what I get for trusting the SEC.
They beat us by 30 points at like Allen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what the hell happened? And,
they curb stomped us now.
yeah, and so, between that and Baylor falling down, so that it's March because teams get hot when they get hot, and so you never know. That's what makes it fun because things can happen. You have Cinderella in play. We always like those. But I mean, I'm feeling good about KU. We got some big wins that need to happen, but I like obviously KU in the next one, and I didn't think the Tar Heels would last this far.
No, I didn't either.
Nope.
I didn't think they would do it. I didn't think. I think Michigan's still
Michigan's
play.
still there.
Yeah, who else is still in play? That's like just.
They played Villanova, maybe, but yeah.
I got Gonzaga and KU in the championship. So.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, looking forward to it. So, anything else you want to add to this, Chris?
No, I mean, the path for Kansas to make the Final Four is there. I mean, you got Auburn getting knocked out. You got, who's the 3 seed in our region?
Wisconsin.
Doesn't matter. It was Wisconsin. That's
Wisconsin,
right.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because I told a friend of mine, I said, there's a chance that Wisconsin and Kansas could play each other in the Elite Eight. And then the Iowa State-Wisconsin game tipped off. But no, I mean, Remy Martin has changed the complexion of this team big time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know much about Providence, so I don't know how confident I feel about beating them. But I mean, they beat Providence. They're facing a double-digit seed in the Elite Eight, who they should beat. I mean, they're kind of now in a situation where they have to make it. So we'll see what happens on Friday night.
Yeah.
I saw.
So I have nothing bad to say about the Badgers by any means. Living here in Wisconsin.
No, I don't either. But yeah.
But I have to tell you, I mean, the Sweet 16 game and the Elite Eight game are in Chicago at the United Center. So I will be driving down there on Friday. Brian, you have to get this up tomorrow. So some of this stuff is like relevant when this video comes out.
So tomorrow morning, I'll get.
Yeah. So I'm driving down to Chicago, and I gotta say, the Badgers getting knocked out of the tournament, I think those ticket prices cut in half.
Really?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I saw a KU player at Dillon's after they won their game.
Nice.
They flew back from Fort Worth, and I think his name was Zach Clemens. He was at
Zach Clemens, huh? Nice.
Yeah.
Saw
him at Dillon's there on Mass Street after Tanya didn't believe me because I was like, I'm like, that looks just like him. He's really, obviously he was like really tall. I'm like, well, that's a dead giveaway. But he's so like skinny. But I'm like, yeah, he was probably like 19 or 20, whatever he is. Yeah. So
he kind of has the parted hair look there too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him. Yeah. But I was like, because the game like just ended like 3 hours ago. I wanted to say something, but I was like, I'll leave you alone. Nice game. I should have said like nice game or something. But
I've run to Danny Manning at least twice in Lawrence, which was interesting. But
I helped him find a book at Hastings when I worked at Hastings in 2005. Yeah. And he was looking for something. So
for all you kids out there, Hastings is a store that tried to
like a Barnes and Noble, which is another bookstore, but it's like 50% smaller.
Blockbuster Video at the same time, and they also sold CDs. So
they did, and
CDs
instruments too.
A disc we listened to in our cars, and they were awesome.
CDs are a disc, yes, exactly.
So it's like a streaming service in your dashboard,
where you stream from a hard device that you have.
Yes.
Oh God.
And a laser gets shot through it. Yes.
A laser, you say?
A laser. So
So I remember seeing him. But yeah, now let's look forward to the game. I'm excited. It's March. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Final takes. Who's got a good one?
My nephew made the all-tournament team in the 3A state basketball championship in Kansas. He averaged 13 points, I think, around the game or whatever, and made him the fifth top scorer. And that dude is a stud, and now he's on the baseball and track in his high school. But yeah, I mean, went to, it was fun going back and stuff, if you recall, like going back there and watching state basketball. And I know it's a small town in Kansas, but still the energy was as electric as ever, as we recall. So it was fun. And
TMP took fourth, right?
Yep. Made
the Heston Swathers ended up winning, didn't they?
I believe they did. Yeah. Back
to
back.
Yeah. So Heston, a small town in Kansas, built on a piece of farm equipment that only people from places like Kansas know. Yeah. Cheers to Jace Wentling.
Yeah. Cheers.
Chris, you got anything interesting, or you want me to go?
Yeah, actually. So for any Royals fans out there, Zach Greinke ended up re-signing with the team, which I think is really cool. Yeah. And I forgot just how interesting of a guy in an interview that Zach Greinke is, but I love the signing because, despite the fact that he has very little of a fastball left, the guy just knows how to pitch. And he even said in his interview or his press conference that he actually wants to be a mentor to these young pitchers, this stable of pitchers right now that the Royals have. Yeah. So to hear that, which, to be honest with you, I didn't expect that from him at all. I think that's hopefully that's going to bring these guys along because, it's a make or break year, I think, for the Royals. I mean, they really need to show some progress with their pitching staff. And hopefully at least one or two of these guys emerge as, at least, maybe a third type of starter, if it's Carlos Hernandez and Daniel Lynch, or, I hope that happens. And I think if that happens, then you're going to start to see a turnaround like you did in 2012 and 2013. So, but yeah, I think the Greinke trade is actually going to help that a lot.
Yeah. I'm glad the baseball's
signing,
back.
Not trade, but yeah.
Yeah. I have two quick things. The first one is fun, and the second one I think is super fun. Both of them are completely ridiculous. So I got some bad news today. There was a lottery for a pre-sale for an event in Denver that I really, really wanted to go to. So South Park has been around for 25 years, and they hired a symphony orchestra to play all of the songs from that show. And they've got one show at Red Rocks, and I found out today that I did not make the registration to buy tickets for that. So I'm super bummed, because I think that would be really awesome. Matt and Trey are supposedly going to be there at this thing. So I'm upset that I don't get to go to that. I don't think I'm even going to look at what aftermarket tickets are. I think they're, one, clamping down pretty hard to make sure those don't get sold, and two, I don't know that I want to see what that number is. But the other thing, talking about ridiculous things, apparently the Toronto Maple Leafs let Justin Bieber design a jersey that they're getting ready to wear, which is a maple leaf with a smiley face on it. So completely ridiculous. I don't know what I think about that, but I know that it's funny. So anyway,
he put a smiley face on. Yeah, that's like he did his homework the night before. No, the day it was due, he woke up that morning, had to do his homework at the kitchen table.
Yeah,
put a smiley face on it. Exactly. It's great.
But in any event, that's what I got. So good night, Chiefs Kingdom.
Chiefs.